Hey everybody, happy Sunday. So here's the thing. This is just an update for, I don't have my phone out, but for Sunday, August 25th. And what I've been doing on these updates is I have been streaming them live to Twitch because that seems to have less interference than some of the other platforms. And then I restream them to my other platforms. So what I just did yesterday was I put just a note about what's been going on the homepage of my site. So if you want to see a playlist of all of these, you can go to racetowalk.org. This is on the front of the page. And then also I have highlighted the ones that it seems to me that there's political motivation behind wiping out my sites. But I'm not going to get into all that because the reason my topic for today on my Sunday thoughts, I didn't do my intro, but anyway, on my Sunday thoughts is this is a message for uh, all these churches that have a lot of space, but they're sitting there mostly empty. So I've been back in Oregon for a while, and I've gone to several churches, and this is one of the things that I have noticed. So there are churches that I've gone into, and they have this big church feel, and I can feel the Holy Spirit when I walk in there. So I know that it is a church that still has its lampstand, but it is it's sitting there mostly empty. And I've been wondering like why that was. I go up to churches sometimes during the week, and they're closed a lot of the time, most of the time. So here's the thing. This is just my advice to you. So here, I know that it's not all about the numbers, but we have people with a lot of need, right? And people that need the truth of the gospel. And so all these churches with these beautiful buildings, they should be filled. They should be filled. And so I'm going to give you some advice about things to do if you want to get more people into your churches. So I was a member, I'm not now, but I was a member of Second Baptist Church I went to the North Campus in Kingwood, but they have 6 campuses now. And I don't even know the actual number. Like years ago, they had 70,000 people. Um, I don't know what that number is now, but they started like when Ed Young Sr. came to that church. I think the story was they had like 500 people, and it's grown to what it is today. And so again, this is the thing. I mean, I've had conversations with people in the apologetics about this. Well, it's nothing about the numbers. Well, you know, yes and no, because the Great Commission is to go out and make disciples of all the nations. And when you look at the early church, the church in Jerusalem took the day of Pentecost. They took 3,000 people into the church in one day. So Jerusalem was a mega church. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So anyway, these are some of the things that I've seen as coming into being a part of this big church, and what I think that it did effectively, and why I think it had the growth that it did. So the first thing that I will say, I was going to say something else, but this is the first thing I'll say. The first thing, the reason I think it was effective is that it had a structure and an order for how things were going to be done. So even down like every single thing, anything you did at that church, there were instructions. It was clear and it was defined and it was in order. They did not overwhelm anybody with, multiple things. You had each person had a role, a clearly defined role, and people knew what was expected. The same thing is true of like volunteering. They would break it out into things to do, and it was written down. And so you would know exactly what you were supposed to do. Things were clear. They were very clear. It was almost boring sometimes because we would have so many volunteers coming to volunteer. It's like, okay, sometimes, especially like the Angels of Light on in December, it was just, it had been doing it for decades. I'll talk a little bit about that, but you would go and there would be so many people that sometimes you felt like, okay, what I'm doing. But the thing is, you didn't feel like sometimes when you volunteer for things, you feel like you have to be on guard because you're going to get hooked into something and overwhelmed. It was never like that. It was never like that. You always had exactly what you needed for whatever you were doing. Had the tools that you needed. You had the help that you needed. They knew what was required for whatever it was that you were doing, and that was what they would fill, so that uh, nobody was ever overloaded. So you could just go and volunteer and help and then walk away and not feel like you were getting hooked in and like bogged down. Everything was clearly defined, from the roles that people played, from the just how they did events, from, I mean, so like I am an organization is one of my superpowers. That's one of the gifts that God has given me. It was just like, just make my soul sing when I would walk into like this check-in for beach retreat, and it's just the process of it. I don't know if this is how the military does it or what, but this is the way it was like. It was clear and defined, and you knew what was expected. And this is the way God does things. Go read in Leviticus, where he lines out exactly how things are to be done, in the worship of the temple, who's going to do what. This is how God does things. God is not the author of confusion. He lines things out. He makes things clear. This is so there's not manipulation, confusion, or any sort of burden. That's not how God works, and that's not how Second Baptist works either. So that is one of the big things. One of the big things. And I'll just say this, that if I don't know if they have a process for this, but I was told that that people that worked like in key roles in Second, this is just what I was told. I've just volunteered, so I don't know. I've never been on staff at Second, but what I was told is that sometimes they will go and they will kind of advise and help churches that are in this growth phase. So if you're listening to the things I'm saying and you're just like, hey, yeah, I feel like this church is what God has put on my heart, the one that you're in, that it needs to grow, and I'm just not quite sure. So as you start to grow, this is what's going to happen. It's how you do things are going to have to change, because you're going to have a different size of church. And what one of the children's directors told me was that they actually will go and help churches that are in those growth phases, help them make that next step to, okay, this is how this big church does it. You want to be a big church, you're going to have to learn how to make that a little bit of a leap into handling more people. Because you get more people, there's going to be more, different issues, different dynamic. You start having something successful, there's going to be other complications that come in. That's just the way things work. Okay, so number one, things are always clearly defined. Clearly defined. Second thing, this is one of Second's mottos. Second loves kids, and it's not just a slogan. It's true. If you look at how they structure the focal points of what they do, it's really almost kids first, adults second. Like Wednesday nights, those are for kids. The adults get booted into the auxiliary worship center. The kids get the worship service, and I'm not saying that somebody could do this, right out of the bat, but look at how your church is structured, and is it structured for kids? And if you say, well, we don't have small children in our church, well, maybe that's why. Maybe that's why you don't, because you don't have anything for them. So it is so it has such I'm not even joking when I say that church has such an influence on the community and the kids, that they pretty much almost define what just entertainment and things to do afterwards. They always have events for kids going on, so that they're really shaping the culture of the young people in the community. And again, I'm not saying that if you are a church that has 50 people, I'm not saying that you could do this out of the bat. This has been like Ed Young. I can't remember what year he came into second, but it's half a century. I think he's been there, so this is built up over time. But you can start. You could start with a big thing in the South is Vacation Bible Schools. Like everyone has them, and they that's really parents kind of like schedule their kids into one after the other. And you may say, okay, well, it's just free babysitting. You know what? This is the thing. It doesn't have to be free babysitting if you have the right attitude towards it and look at it as this is an opportunity to tell these little people who Jesus is and show them what Jesus is like. That's a huge impact. And we there's a lot of programs that you can buy, like curriculum to do the Vacation Bible Schools, and of course, it takes volunteers to do this. But this is the thing: if you start having things for kids, you're going to start attracting families with kids, right? And you're going to be able to start connecting with them. And so I remember back when I was growing up, is Calvary Mennonite Church. I still remember their Bible studies. I remember like being out in the grass outside of it, and then down in the basement. And what I remember was specifically about it is the tang that we had in for the snacks for Bible study, because my mom never let us have stuff like that. She was really like, she was like a health nut before it was like a hip thing to do. She wouldn't let us have sugar. We had to have she didn't get chocolate chips. She got carob. But I got tang at Vacation Bible School at the Mennonite Church. So, it doesn't have to be, teach some songs, and I think that one was actually in the evenings. So work with what you have. I mean, if you don't have people in your church that can volunteer during the day, do it in the evenings. Another thing you could do would be to have like mommy me times. They have them at I haven't really seen this so much at churches because they have a lot of other programs that they have going on in the South, but I have seen this in the libraries. Have a mommy and me time like at your church. If a lot of times when I go by these churches, they're locked up most of the week. I mean, you could have some of the things like this, or find, like have be host to like classes or book clubs or painting night out or something. I mean, what is it that you can do that can help fulfill like this, not only the spiritual needs but also the physical needs of the people in your community? I can't tell you exactly what would work for your community, because I don't know your community, but you should know your community outside of the four walls of your church. What do the people around you specifically need? Where is the need? Is it with kids? Is it with are you in like a transitory area where there's young professionals? Maybe who knows? Maybe you need to have like some sort of mixer designed for like young adults or young professionals, where they could come in and meet people in a safe space, because we're all disconnected. What is the need of the people around you? And if you don't know, then you need to start like finding out, get out there to meet your neighbors. Go around there and actually walk door to door and hand out flyers. This is the thing. This is a story about the 1463 campus of Second. So somebody donated a ton of money to the church, and so what they did with that is they bought two campuses, one out in Cypress, Texas, the other one out, they call it 1463, but it's way out west of Houston. And so what they did is they built these churches. Basically, those two churches are like the same. They're almost like carbon copies of each other. And this church, the 1463 one, they go out there and there's all this building. There's like no churches. And they basically build this church just in the middle, and then they send out a team from, they build the team from these other campuses, and it's like a church in a box. And what did they do? They didn't just rely on ads or whatever. The pastors in this went out door to door and introduce themselves. Say, hey, I'm, you know, so and so. We're having this church, and they specifically, it was right before they were having vacation Bible study, and so they sent people. They went out and invited people. I mean, they had like mass amount of people. This is what I remember from that first year. So like, get to know people. Just actually like say, hey, we're here. You know, I hope you can come by and meet us. Um, so there's that, and also they don't treat Sunday school like an afterthought. You know, they look at it as, they want to have age appropriate curriculum for the kids, but it needs to be good curriculum. And even just like with the people that are in the that are in there, the director, her attitude was, this is at the North Campus. Her attitude was, she wanted to have the right people in the class, and if she couldn't find the right people, then she would just, not open that class. They combine classes rather than having the wrong people in the class. So look at it like it is important. I mean, this is, and I'm telling you, these kids, these kids that have been, I taught third grade Sunday school for 6 years. These kids that have been in those Sunday schools, let me tell you, they know the Bible. They do know it. And I've told this story before on one of my other videos, but we were just talking, I was just talking with the kids, and I was talking about, Jesus healing. And I said, the story of the lepers, where Jesus told 10 lepers to go to the priest. And as they went, they discovered they were healed. So I'm telling the story. I hadn't planned ahead. I'm just talking, And I said, and only 2 came back. And they're like, no, it was 1. It was 1. I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, it was 1. And they were super excited that they caught me out on something wrong. And they were right. It was 1. I still, in my head, I have 2, but it was 1. But they know it. They know it. And so kids aren't too young to learn. I mean, they learn verses. I told my third graders that we taught them the books of the Bible. We would do Bible drills. This is one of the things that, my co-teacher, Joanne Knight, taught me, like the Bible drills that, even like the numbers of the Bible, that 3 times 9 is 27. So there's 39 books in the Old Testament, 27 in the New, and the total books is 66. You never do that, but I told my kids that they probably know the books of the Bible better than some of the adults. And this is true. This is absolutely true, because there's some adults that don't know what's in the Bible and what's not. So anyway, but Second treats it, they make it a priority. It's almost like kid-centered, almost. And so here's the other thing that they would always do. They really focus on, even though it was a very big church, they always focused on being able to follow up with the individual. So they encourage you they send out, like this little, they ask you to fill out, if you're visiting, fill out this card. And you put that in the offering. Is when they pass out the offering, it's like, if you're a visitor, this is just for members. If you're a visitor, what you're offering to us is, we have this visitor card. We'd just like to be able to get to know you. And then they actually follow up with them and, get to know them. They also have, after each service, they have a reception that if you're new, we would like to get to know you. You can talk to the pastors. And so there's this opportunity. It's just part of the thing, right? It's just, and if you haven't had a lot of members, or new visitors, maybe you don't have that process, but practice with, hey, if you decide you want to grow your church and get new people in, then you have to have a plan for handling them, right? So have some people, have a welcome team, even if nobody comes, practice welcoming people. Talk to the people on the welcome team. Hey, what's going on in your life? What's new with you? Hey, how can I pray with you? Get used to praying with people. And then maybe, God will be sending these people to you. So the other thing too is that this is the other thing. I don't want to make this too long, but this is why I think that God sends people to Second. And there's some things in the church I don't agree with, but they have a lot of really good things going on. Like I said, I'm just mentioning a few of them, and this is one of the reasons why I think that the church has grown. It's because at the end of every single service, they say, they give an altar call. They give an opportunity for somebody to come and accept Jesus, if they haven't ever done that before. Every single time. Every single time they do this. And then if they've, they end it as, if you would, what do they do? If I'm not sure if they ask if you'd like somebody to pray with you, or if you'd like to join the church, or if you'd like to, discuss more someone about making a decision for Christ. And then they have that. And then after, they have a team that people that will talk with these people and counsel them. And so again, this is a big church, but again, if you want people to come, you need to be prepared to handle them when they do. And you need to give them the opportunity. And if you give people an opportunity to accept Jesus, if you're presenting the gospel and you're giving people an opportunity to accept Jesus, I guarantee you he's going to send people to you. I guarantee you. You may say, well, I know all these people. Here's the deal. You may not know people as well as you think you do. Okay, this is the truth. And this is the other thing. Lakewood, I read an article about this. They have prayer ministers. They have people who volunteer to pray. I've never been to Lakewood in person. I just read this in an article. And they'll have them, what I read is that they'll have people standing at the end of the aisle, and that if you need prayer for something, you can go up to them and ask for prayer. So, everybody has a bunch of need, right? And we're supposed to be praying for each other. And so don't make it like it shouldn't be out of the norm. It should be part of the program, right? It should be part of the process. So anyway, so that's another idea. But this is the thing. I mean, give people a reason to be walking through your doors, whatever that is. What is needed in your community? And you don't have to do it all on your own. Partner with some of the local nonprofits. They don't have to be Christian. Like, what are the nonprofits that know the need in your area? Say, hey, we're here. How can we help? Especially if you have a small church and can't do all these things at your own. The North Campus of Kingwood was originally it was Forest Cove Baptist Church, and they started just having a food pantry. People would come. I don't know how they, say, hey, we need this, but they just started a food pantry in, just in a closet in their church. And then out of that grew an entire nonprofit, which is the Mission Northeast, which does, not only food, but, a whole bunch of other things for people in the area. And the church still supports that nonprofit. They have somebody that coordinates with the nonprofit, saying, what are your needs? What are you short on? And then they let the Bible studies know what the donations are, so they can help do that. So you don't have to do it all on your own. Find a good nonprofit that you can partner with, so you can, especially if you don't know the needs of your community. So anyway, here's the thing. We're supposed to be the salt and the light. And sometimes, if we're just sitting in our church and not inviting people in, or even engaging with other people, or we don't have a process, because sometimes, here's the thing, I'm originally from Oregon, and I know how Oregonians are. We like to stay in our own little bubbles. And then I have been in Texas for the last 20 years, and they don't have bubbles. They just, Texans will just talk to you. So it's very, very different. So I know that sometimes we have to get out of our comfort zone. I literally, not even joking, I had to learn how to be friendly from people in my Bible study. Not a joke, I would go up, I'd be in a situation, and it's not comfortable for me to engage with people that I don't know. And so I would think, what would so-and-so in my Bible study do right now? And then that's what I would do. So I had to learn how to be friendly. It's not that I was unfriendly, it's just, you know how it is. We Oregonians, we like to stay contained. So, but you can learn. You can even things that aren't comfortable for you, you can learn how to do. I promise. So anyway, so those are some of my suggestions. I mean, I have a 10 ideas that you could do. Just have an activity or event. Have a parents' night out where you come and where parents can drop off their kids and have a date night. I mean, what is it that your community needs? How can we fill a need? I don't know what it is in your community, but this is the thing. If you're listening to this, you're just okay, God, yeah, I know that this church is supposed to be bigger than it is, that it's supposed to be having more impact than it currently is right now, then just have a small group of people and say, hey, God, what do you want us to do? We're listening. What do you want us to do? And then whatever he tells you to do, that's what you do. So, here's the thing. We are supposed to be spirit led, but we are, we are God's imagers, and he made us to subdue the chaos. That's the thing. And so having order and structure and say, this is the way we're going to be doing these things. This is what we want to, this is what we feel like God's saying to us, right? This is Habakkuk. Write the vision, make it plain so he may run who is reading it. Write it down. Say, this is what we think God's given us to do, and this is how we're going to go about doing it, and like start spreading your wings. Spread the light a little bit more than it is, because there's a lot of darkness out there. So anyway, and I have another idea for you. So I've mentioned in my Kabul Hope videos that there was a new, okay, it's not new. This was new last year. It's a program called Welcome Corps. And what this is it is based on, it's based on the Canadian program that allows for private sponsorship of refugees. So if you're not familiar with the immigration whole process, which I wasn't either, it's like an entire thing. And not only are immigration laws a mess, but there are a lot of agencies in that are involved in the immigration process. So it's a little messy. And there's all these different paths coming in. So what this new program was that it was designed, so you have the immigration process, right? And then there would be resettlement agencies in different areas that would help these refugees get resettled in different areas. Well, the problem is that when Trump was in office, he basically decimated that resettlement system. So even if you have, okay, so part of the problem is our immigration laws, right? So getting people here is a problem, but the other part of the problem is when you get them here, what do you do with them? Because Trump destroyed that, decimated it. And so all these agencies that were there, some of them, there was this one, I can't remember what it was. I think it was Refugees of Texas. They had an 800 number that was just, when I first started helping the Afghans, it was just amazing. Great resource. Best thing. Well, the funding was cut, and so they actually went out. And so when you have such a drastic cut to resources, you can't just pop them back up on a dime. It takes time to build back up these resettlement agencies that were devastated. Interfaith ministries, look at them. They've had like open, I'm not even sure. I mean, they used to be like really effective. Maybe they still are. I don't know. Ministry, but they've had open job openings for forever that don't get filled. I mean, it's like you have to lay people off, and then you have to get people in and trained up. That's another bog to the system. So one of the things that has been implemented under the Biden administration is this Welcome Corps, which is based on the Canadian program that allows for private sponsorship of refugees. So what this is that you can, 5 individuals or an organization can, well, the first phase was that they could sponsor a refugee family that was already in the system. Okay, so I attended the first webinar last January, so January 2023. There were 5,000 people on the call. They actually had to close it and do some other ones. What I read last fall was that 83 people had come through the system, which is not that great. I could have, I don't know. That's what I read. But this is the thing. I think that one of the reasons, the reason I was doing it, because that's phase 2, or that was, they call it the naming phase now, is that you can request to sponsor a refugee family that you know. And so we were waiting for that. That's what we were waiting for, which opened up like the last days of 2023. So if you've been following any of my stuff, like right after that is when like all these, the crazy attacks and hacking and everything that has been on like my accounts, my site, just basically on everything. And so I have been waiting for that. And then it comes to the time when we can actually start moving on it. And I'm basically almost like, shut down because all my access to everything is so compromised. But anyway, that's all about me. right? I can do this on my own anyway. So if you're out there and you have, this is my suggestion to you. We also have a welcome core on campus, so that the idea is to have these universities be sort of like resettlement centers. But this is the thing; it shouldn't have to be universities. Our churches should be this, right? So I see all these churches sitting there empty. I have like an entire Afghan church that could be filling one of them. So there's that. The other thing is the lady that I had talked about previously that filed, she's a Muslim lady that filed humanitarian parole applications for 178 families. Most of those is the thing. I think 4 of them have come through with approvals. The problem is that they are, the thing about that is that when they come through on a humanitarian parole, they get nothing. Absolutely nothing. They're completely dependent on the financial sponsor for support. All they get is a visa to come, and they get the ability to apply for a work permit, and then they have to apply for asylum, and then that could be 6 years before their case is heard. And it's also not a guarantee that their case will be approved. They could be denied. So anyway, there's an opportunity to convert some of those to welcome core applications, and that would be a lot better for them because it's a direct path to citizenship. After a year, they can apply for their green card, and after 5 years, they can apply for citizenship. So when you say, well, are all these people Christians? Even people in my church, who can guarantee where somebody actually is? I mean, like I've said, in all the things that have been happening to me, the majority of the people that are the perpetrators are people who call themselves Christians, and they're Americans, born and bred. So what somebody says they are, maybe they were once, who knows what they are right now. But what I've also said is that, and I told the people that I was working with that I don't want you telling me, I'm not helping you because you're coming to my Bible studies or you say you're Christian. I'm helping you because you're a human being. And what I have noticed about just people that I interact with as a whole, a lot of times, especially, they've been under, they've been interacting with Western countries and NATO for the last 20 years. And for a lot of the people, Islam for them is more cultural than anything that has to do with like inner belief. It's like a lot of Christians. A lot of Christians are just cultural Christians. They don't really. It's not a spiritual in their bones kind of belief. But if you're somebody that is, as a church, that's just talking to them and getting to know them, and not not as a project, but just as people, as human beings to interact with and be a friend with, then they're going to have an opportunity to hear something different. And that can be, you don't have to go halfway across the world to do missions. You can do it right in your own church. So anyway, that's my suggestion for these empty churches. Be using it to help the poor and the downtrodden, and who knows what kind of growth you'll see after that. And if you want to send a message and ask me more questions about this, you can send me a message at racerwalk@proton.me. Like I said, I've been having petty criminals are still attacking my stuff. I'm pretty sure that it's mostly politically motivated at this point. I mean, there's some other things going on too, but the intensity of it, it's political. I had like a massive attack at hacking my site last night because this is on the homepage now. Try to hide them. That's fine. I'll just put them front and center. I mean, like I said, God already told me how this ends. You lose. And again, more things, more revelation today. So more people are getting looped in. So anyway, those are my thoughts today, and I hope you have a great Sunday.